All right. Well, here we're back on the shock and awe, hands in dirt, magical moment, using all my annoying Alec ridiculous ways of describing this stuff. So, what we're going to do here is Tati, I'm going to pass it to you first to describe a moment that you've had relatively recently where the shock and awe and inspiring nature of how much more productive, how much more efficient you can be when you introduce some of these, LLM oriented and or generative AI native tools and systems into your day to day to help those that maybe haven't yet had the opportunity to have that moment. Because kind of once you see it, you never forget it. And so, Tati, I don't know if you have an example where you were like, oh, wow, that was quite helpful.
I do, and it's a really simple example actually. As I share it, I was like, it's a very simple. So I'm participant. I'm co-writing a paper on a very complex topic at the moment, and I needed obviously to do some research. I wanted to understand what has been written about it already. What are the positions? Who takes the for against type of position? And what are the thought schools out there around this? And really help understand and help inform my own position as I'm writing this, as what they want is the insight that I bring, but I needed all that information. And so I actually used ChatGPT's deep research feature. I wrote a very long prompt because I was very detailed on what I wanted. I wanted very specific sources to be included, but not limited to. So, it's a one pager of a prompt, but specifically also asking to go beyond my instructions, which is something that I do often to say this is not meant to restrict your input. It's meant to be to inform. Please include this, but don't be limited to that. And within 10 minutes, what I got was 45 pages worth of quoted, which is another direction I always give, another prompt I always give is to make sure that I know where it's coming from. Quoted examples and narrative, and also already shaped into some of the formats that I needed, which would have taken me as I sat there. I reflected on how long it would have taken me to Google this alone, right? Which is what most of us will do. Search back in the day, you go and you have to open, you click, you hope it's a safe link. You read through to see if it's relevant, what is relevant out of it. You cut and paste and you try to keep it. It would have taken me a solid 2 weeks to do this. And in 10 minutes I got it. And then I got to spend the time that I had reading through it, which was incredibly interesting. I was able to go deeper into places where I thought was needed and spend the time on my insight.
Totally.
And got me thinking about even before before Google, how long would that taken me? I'm still, I used to go to the library to get books out back in the day too, even before Google. So like I almost shed a tear that day on like how far we've come, and how amazing that was, and how much smarter I am because of it.
Yeah, I love that. And I think one of the things that you're touching on, and I love how tangible that example is, if you think about that, it wasn't as if you historically wouldn't have allocated the time to do the research the way you would have done it. It just would have, you would have had to do all of that research and then hopefully had enough time and or allocated as much time as you needed once you did all the research to then do the interpretation and so on and so forth. And now it just happens more or less instantaneously, which is huge. I think for me, the thing that the big light bulb for me is when you start to introduce projects, for example, in Claude. And I love Claude in particular as someone who spends a fair amount of time, writing. But, as Shane Parrish and others have always, brought to lots of different people's attention is you can't write well unless you think well. And that's part of what makes writing, so fun and challenging at the same time. But one of the biggest challenges when you're, putting together, like for example, my newsletters are, 1,500 to 2,500 words, give or take each time. And it just takes me a long time to do the proper research and read through all the different things that I'm sifting through to get to a place, even though instinctually I kind of know it when I read it the first time. But one of the things that's a big magic moment for me with Claude in particular was when I first used Claude from a project perspective and took hundreds of pages of white papers and research reports, those of which I had clearly read, but I was able to take down, and interpret them so much faster by working with Claude within the context of the project. And so when I would come back 2 days later, 5 days later, as I have a new idea, a new insight to kind of shape the newsletter, I wouldn't have to keep explaining myself. Claude had this understanding that was instantaneous, and I actually was able to go away and spend more time thinking about how do I build off of this report? How do I build off of this technical development, as opposed to the way I used to do it in the past. And so I would like to think the quality of my writing has improved, the quality of my newsletter has improved, the quality of my allocation of time to trying to help people better understand the implications of the dot connecting within the context of these reports, as opposed to having just to do the grunt work of reading them and putting them together and all this stuff that's important, but it's just nowhere near as high impact. So Steve, I don't know if you've got some moments that you've had in the past, but for me, that was a big one, is the contextual understanding and photographic memory as a collaborative partner from a research, strategy, insights, and ideas perspective with Claude when I write.
Yeah, for us, when you talk about like time saving aspect of it, obviously it's huge. And that's for us, it's everything from rapid prototype development to product requirements documentation, to actually engineering and code creation, right? So, using tools like Claude Code have come out with some really great things that have accelerated the application development process for our team. And, we're starting to really produce rapid prototypes. And we've talked about this in the past, like from idea, from concept to prototype in a week, days even, right? Because of tools like Lovable and Bolt and some of these just vibe coding tools that are out there right now. So it really has cut down on the amount of time to go from concept to creation. And obviously you've got to continue to expand on that and build on it and make it production ready. But, it's one of those things where like you can use AI to move faster, get that concept out there, develop code faster, right? And then also testing is a huge thing, right? The ability to use AI to kind of test the product requirements, test the code as it relates to all those things mapping back together, being able to look at all the the stories and the epics and then being able to test them out in terms of the code that is generated. So amazing tools that are out there right now.
Yeah.
Can I add
Tati,
one
go
quick
ahead.
example
Yeah.
that I just thought that I love, talking about agents and projects specifically from Claude. We love Claude as well. I'm doing a keynote on customer experience and agents and AI and how that comes together. Why AI success lies on the 30% of things that humans do best in terms of that co-creation, the co-piloting you're talking about. I built a project that helps me incorporate talk about continuing to move as we go on is not static, right? The content. So I need to incorporate additional examples and the technology and how it's developing to it. So my project helps me do that. So it helps me do that in a very incredibly effective way, and something that will take me hours of research, and that's the other thing that gets me. It's not just about the hours, it's the hours and the limited input that you're going to get, therefore the quality of the outcome is not as great. So as an efficiencies person, that to me is a no-brainer. Why would you not do it?
Yeah, I 100%. I think where you're going with that is it's the allocation, right? It's the reallocation of human, focus as a result of being able to manage some of these digital labor, aka AI agents and what have you, that allows us to do more or focus more of our effort on the things that we're uniquely positioned as human beings to be able to do. And therefore, all of the quality, levels up. But that's cool. I'm really glad that, because again, I think sometimes folks just want to hear, like, hey, tell me about a magical moment where a light bulb went on where you're like, wow, I had no idea that I could do something like this that fast, and or just shave 17 hours of labor off of something, and still get the same quality and then reallocate. So yeah, I think this is good. So thanks, Tati. Thanks, Steve. As always, appreciate it.
Cheers.
Yeah.